I'm Chris, you're watching FRAG-MENTAL, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking to you about my favourite of the newest releases from Argos Fragrances. It's called Brivido Della Caccia. Stay tuned to FM. A few weeks ago, Christian from Argos Fragrances sent me a few samples of their newest releases. I loved them all, but my favourite only just was the one I'm talking about today, Brivido Della Caccia. I think it was my favourite because I found it the most unique. So Bacio Immortale, very, very lovely. Similar DNA to Tuscan Leather, kind of doing its own thing. Find it sweeter than that, so not exactly the same. And then Triumph of Bacchus, beautiful, boozy tobacco fragrance. Loved it. Again, doing its own thing, but I feel like there are quite a lot of other fragrances in that genre. So I love the uniqueness of Brivido Della Caccia, and I think because it just got me trying to work out what was going on and what it was similar to, I found it stimulating and challenging. So Christian said, if it's your favourite, would you like to have a bottle so you can do a review? Of course, I accepted, who wouldn't? And I always love putting out my recommendations to you. Sometimes I might sample fragrances, and if I don't feel they're a recommendation, if it's not something that I would like in my collection and it's not something that I feel like I can recommend to you based on my personal tastes, then I won't. But if someone can offer me a fragrance to talk about to you and recommend, I will always go for it. I'm going to break this fragrance down for you and try to give you some idea as to whether it's something that you might be interested in or not. So, Brivido Della Caccia means thrill of the chase, and I believe there's a bit of information here on Argos's website which I've not read yet. I'm going to read it to you right now. It says, represented by the Greek goddess Artemis. The goddess was known as the goddess of wilderness, wild animals, childbirth and chastity. Artemis was also known as the goddess of the hunt and was very short-tempered. On one occasion, the goddess of chastity became infuriated that a mortal had happened upon her while bathing in the woods. He was spying on her. She hastily turns the hunter into a stag, and he is quickly chased down by his hounds and ripped apart. What? Well, fortunately, there aren't any accords of bloody hound breath or ripped apart hunter in this fragrance. I'm very glad to report. So let's take a closer look at the gorgeous bottle and the notes that are in this. Notes include pink pepper, juniper berries, Marte Absolute, Oriental tonka bean Absolute, amber, leather, birchwood, oil of fluve and iris concrete. Before I go any further, I am going to say that out of the three newest releases from Argos, I think this one is the most challenging. The others are sweeter and perhaps a little easier to wear, a little more accessible for people who aren't really as into niche or are thinking about starting to buy niche. I think you'd want to be some way into your fragrance journey to be able to appreciate the nuances and the complexities of this. So it's quite rich and a bold, kind of potent smell. And I find it challenging in the sense that when I smell it, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to think of other fragrances that it reminds me of, but it doesn't. I'm trying to get used to the notes in here. I'm just trying to process the fragrance. So for me, it's challenging in that respect because it is such a unique fragrance. It does stand on its own. Maybe it smells similar to another fragrance out there on the market, but it's not one that I have smelled. So to me, I love this. I think this is my favorite of the three because it is so different. When you spray it straight away, you get this interesting juxtaposition of clean juniper berry and the Marte Absolute. Now Marte is a herb that grows in South America and it's similar or related to the holly bush, and it's used to make a tea-like drink, and it has a strong, bitter, earthy aroma and a slight smell of eucalyptus as well, so it gives it this kind of green, bitter earthiness. When I first smelled this, I was thinking, what is going on here? And I love that because it gets the synapses firing. It stimulated my brain as I was trying to process the fragrance and work out what was going on. And also in the opening, straight away, you're aware of this rich complexity, you're aware of these layers and depth, and there's a fantastic texture to the fragrance. I think a lot of this is coming from the smokiness, which is probably the birch oil, and there's a smooth leather. Those two notes alone could be quite strong notes and potentially take over a fragrance, but they don't do that here. The way that they are blended into the formula, the way that they are smoothly woven in, just creates that texture and that depth that is so fascinating about this fragrance. I find it to be bold, assertive, it commands attention, and when I wear this, I feel quite empowered. As it dries down, it smooths out even more as the richness of the amber comes through, and you get a little bit more sweetness in the dry down, and I think it's possibly coming from the tonka bean in here. It just has this very rich, luxurious, very, very classy feel. It's a very well balanced fragrance. I also get a little bit of an animalic undertone, just a little bit, just a hint. Nothing to worry about, nothing that is taking over the fragrance, making it too potent or too challenging, but there's just a little bit, just the right amount of animalic funk in the background there, possibly coming from something like civet. I know that's not listed. Maybe there isn't an animalic note, it's just a combination of the other notes, but whatever it is, it gives it this punch, which I really like. I love that it's this interesting, complex fragrance, but that it also has a decent amount of mass appeal. And I'm actually looking forward to wearing this out in public when we can eventually go out in public again, because I feel like this should garner quite a bit of attention. I think it projects well. We'll get into the performance. I think it's unique, so I think it draws people in. I think they'll be interested because they haven't smelled this before, and it's a nice smell. I think it's got a good amount of mass appeal. So to sum up, this is earthy, smoky, rich and warming, very unique, and for me personally, I find it very wearable. I don't always go into too much detail about the packaging and presentation, but when I feel like it's noteworthy and when I feel like you're partly buying into the luxury prestige of a brand and the packaging and presentation is a factor, then I'll go into it in a little bit more detail. Argos's presentation is absolutely stunning. You get this box with the silver lettering on the front, which says Brivido Della Caccia Eau de Parfum, and then there's a bit of information on the back. So the painting on the box is actually the Thrill of the Chase painting on which the fragrance is based on. So here you have the dude that was turned into a stag. Fortunately, the picture of him on the box is before he was ripped apart so violently by the hounds. So I'm pleased about that. And there he is, a little bit naughty. He's just spying on all those ladies bathing in the woods. So he probably did deserve what he got, to be honest. Let's have a look inside the box. The outer box is quite a thin card, but this inner box is much more heavyweight. It's a thicker card covered in this faux leather, and it has this nice green appearance. And on the side here, we have a magnetic flap, which when we open, we can see that we have a description of the fragrance here, and we have the fragrance notes. And then the juice itself is just sitting nice and snugly, nicely displayed in the box there. So overall, a stunning presentation from Argos. Let's do some Frogmen. First of all, I'm going to talk about when you can wear this. It's quite a rich and heavy fragrance, so I think probably autumn and winter would be the best seasons for this. Although here in the UK, we can even get some quite cool summer days. So realistically, I could wear this all year round. I think probably you want to avoid wearing it in the high heat. It might become a little bit too heavy and oppressive, although, you know, whatever works for you. In terms of occasions, I think this would work really well as an evening fragrance or a formal occasion fragrance, or, you know, any situation that you're in, you want to command some attention, you want to have a good presence, and you want people to notice you. I would say it's probably more of a masculine scent, although I'm sure there are some ladies out there who could easily rock this. I think you'd probably want to be around 25 or 30 years old to pull this one off. It doesn't have that kind of light sweetness you might expect from a more youthful fragrance, but again, that's just a bit of a guideline. You can try this and, you know, maybe it's your thing even if you are below those ages. Let's talk about the all-important performance. It does a pretty good job. It's got a decent projection. It's not massive, so I wouldn't categorize it as beast mode, but it's doing okay, and longevity is fantastic. You're going to get 10 hours plus of this. Let's talk about the price. It's not cheap. We are buying luxury fragrance here, so you're buying into the prestige of a luxury brand. It's 245 euros for a 100ml bottle, and it's an eau de parfum concentration. If you're in the US, it also comes out at $245. So it's up to you, you know, depends if you think that you like the fragrance enough, so do try and sample if you can, and if you think it's worth buying into the luxury and the presentation. Not everyone's about that, but there are plenty of people out there who are, plenty of people who want these kind of bottles proudly displayed on the shelf. I can offer you a discount code, which is FRAG-MENTAL10, which gets you 10% off. That code will just run indefinitely, but for the next week, this ends on Father's Day. This is a special promotion for Father's Day. Argos are offering you 15% off anything from their website. So all you need to do is, when you go to the site and make your purchase, in the promo code box put FRAG15, that's up on the screen so you can see what it is. If you're watching this video and it's after Sunday the 21st of June, then that code will no longer work, but you can still use FRAG-MENTAL10 to get 10% discount. You'll find my affiliate links to Argos's website in the description. I love this. It's right up my street. I think it's a superbly well crafted and well composed fragrance. If you like that bitter green earthiness that you get a little bit from Oud for Greatness or Parfum de Marly's Callan, it's not the same as those fragrances, but it shares that kind of bitter green earthy characteristic, which I find very sensual, very sexy, then you might like this fragrance, because I think it does have that aspect to it as well. If you have tried this fragrance, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments. It's always useful for everybody else watching the video as well to see what other people think other than just me, because at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. You need to form your own opinions. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, keep tuning into FM and keep smelling good.